Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome to February 2nd, Sunday, 2025. It is 6:30 p.m. and I just want to make sure that we are live. Um, like I always try to do, just to make sure that I'm not talking to myself in case nobody comes on here and that this lives on the YouTube channel. So I just want to make sure I'm live. All right. And if you are joining me tonight on a live, remember, don't hesitate to come into the comments, have conversation with myself, with the whole community that might pop into the live tonight as well. My name is Devon Clark, or Clark the Realtor. I am a realtor based out of the Metro Atlanta area of Georgia, and I have one of my friends on real estate that does real estate on YouTube, Jackie Sylvester. I have her mug. She gave me her mug, so go check out her channel, follow her, subscribe to her, like her, and join her lives when she goes live. And if you are here tonight, don't forget to put where you're tuning in from. I appreciate everybody that comes on the live. Tonight, we're going to talk about, I actually wrote down what we're going to kind of talk about. And I'm not going to try to keep you guys here too long because I know tonight is Grammy night. I know people, well, I don't think football is on this Sunday night because next weekend is when the Super Bowl is. So hopefully people that will watch football on Sunday night, they'll join me tonight. But we're going to kind of talk about Trump. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? We're going to talk about Trump tonight, about as far as like what he wants to do, implementing towards the housing market. Hey, what's going on? MHOA 67 and sunny in Denver. Wow, it was about maybe 60, maybe like 50. I don't want to say 60, maybe like 58 here today in Georgia. So thank you for joining me today. So we'll talk about Trump. We're going to talk about some of the NAR stuff. I know people probably already heard this a while back, but I kind of want to jump into a little bit and show you guys some of the contracts here in Georgia. Remember, the contracts are different depending on where you're at. And then we'll talk about the housing market because I went recently this week. I actually went to a housing meeting in Atlanta in regards to like affordable housing and different things like that. It was more aimed towards more of like affordable building as far as apartment building. However, there are, of course, local people who live in the community came out to try to see what is happening in the real estate space when it comes to affordability and housing down here in Atlanta, and as far as property taxes, insurance, and all that stuff. So I'm going to kind of talk about that. So let's just jump into it real quick. I appreciate you guys being here with me tonight. Again, if you are joining us, don't forget to tell us where you're coming in from. Hey, what's going on, David? What's going on? Don't forget to tell us where you're coming in from, and if you're watching the replay, don't forget to mention that in the comments, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like it, and hopefully join us on the live. All right, so first I'll jump into, and I know everybody's kind of been talking about this whole thing in regards to Trump, and we kind of saw this coming, right? We saw him talking about what he planned on doing, and if you guys don't know, I believe it was today he signed a 25% tariff on Canada, Mexico, and China. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and how it could affect our housing market. Let me put my windows down. I got a lot of windows open, you guys, so bear with me because it's a lot to talk about. But anyway, he was just there. It says Trump says America has all the trees it needs, but fixing the housing crisis may mean depending on Canada wood. So if you guys don't know, we get a lot of percentage of our wood. Is it trying to make me pay for this? Let me go and read what you call this. Sorry, you guys. Sometimes these platforms be making you want to pay for stuff when you get on them. So let me go, and I'm not paying for that. So while that wants me to pay for it, let's jump over to another platform, and then I'll bring that one back up because I'm not paying for no CNN.com. It was a day and time when things on the internet were free, and nowadays everybody wants to get $1 out of your pocket. And that is the reason why we are struggling in America, because everybody wants to squeeze something out of your pocket. And I understand people got to make money. Businesses got to make money in order to keep growing, but we got to remember, can't charge for everything in life. All right, so let's just jump on this one, and then we'll go back to that article, because then hopefully give us some time where it doesn't kind of keep us trying to subscribe to CNN. But anyway, Trump wants to fix the housing affordability crisis, what it will take. So this kind of talks about a little bit as far as him wanting to fix the housing affordability crisis. As you guys know, he said what MHOA said. He said, I got a trick for paywalls. He said, I got a paywall trick. So yes, teach me the trick. because every website nowadays wants you to pay, and I'm not in the business of paying for internet when I already paid for the Wi-Fi to access the internet. But anyway, so yeah, so it says basically, if you guys don't know, Trump, of course, he set in place the tariffs, the 25% tariffs. He also had claimed different things in regards to different ways that he wanted to fix the housing market. So it said within a few days in office, President Donald Trump issued an emergency directing the heads of all executive departments and agencies to deliver emergency price relief, which he emphasized would include lowering the cost of housing and expanding supply. So I want to understand how he uh, thinks he controls the housing market. If you guys don't know, he also had stated that he wanted to get rid of the Federal Reserve, which he cannot do because the Federal Reserve is not a part of the it's not a part of our quote unquote um, like Congress, Senate, all that stuff is not attached to it. So he can't do that. He can't order Jerome Powell to step down. He has no authority to say that. He cannot lower interest rates. But I'm guessing what he's doing is he's trying to create a tactic to maybe do some type of negotiation or things that kind of put stress or put pressure on people to try to move the needle. But we'll see. It says the Trump administration cited regulatory requirements as a main driver why so many Americans are unable to purchase homes. We know that the housing market is unaffordable. We know that no one can purchase, some people cannot purchase homes. We know that first-time home buyers are kind of struggling a little bit more to be able to actually see home ownership in America, a country in which, it has always been when you grow up, you want to get a house with a picket fence, get married, have 2 kids, get your car, have a good career. And we're seeing that is slowly but surely crumbling in the United States of America. And it's not only just in America, it's worldwide. It's in Canada, it's in China, it's all over the place. Like, it's a global housing crisis, a global financial crisis. So it says in his first term, Trump reduced regulatory costs by almost 11,000 per household, the White House said in a fact sheet. And let's kind of just jump down to what some of the ways that he is said that he wanted to kind of try to reduce housing or kind of relieve the housing crisis. It says real estate experts are in agreement that the housing crisis is a problem the federal government cannot solve alone, and that several levels of government need to be involved to make a significant change. So like I stated earlier, we all agree the housing market is in a crisis, right? The unaffordability crisis is skyrocketing. It says Trump plans to cut regulatory red tape, focuses on construction costs, but most housing regulations like zoning laws, permitting are controlled by local governments. The federal government has limited authority here, so meaningful change would likely require incentivizing local governments or taking unprecedented federal actions, such as overriding local zoning laws. So this is what the Redfin chief economist Daryl Fairweather told Fox Business News, that even with him trying to step in regards to, when it comes to new construction and things being built, as far as them getting the permitting, the zoning, those zoning laws and everything, as far as it taking so long for them to be able to build new construction, or taking so long for them to build apartment buildings and such, so on and so on, because there's a lot of states where there's a lot of red tape. And so instead of us having to wait so long are the builders, not us, because I'm not a builder, but instead of the builders having to wait so long and kind of trying to wait for those permits to get approved and the zoning laws and everything, and paying astronomical costs for these permits and everything to build, they're saying that Trump is saying if we incentivize these builders in the matter of getting rid of some of these permitting and zoning laws, maybe it'll help them to create more housing in the market, and in turn it'll drive up the demand of us having more available housing, which in turn hopefully will drive down the cost of housing, because you have so many available units. And in turn, which is like the supply and demand thing, right? We have more availability to buy in the market, which gives the buyer more control to pick where they want to go, and also allows for a more, hopefully, lower cost in housing, right? So, but again, as Daryl said, the chief economist over at Redfin, Trump doesn't, the government per se, the federal government has very limited authority on permitting and zoning, right? because the counties and the cities, the local governments have control over that. So we need to be kind of talking more to our local mayors, our local politicians, our local city council people, and getting more of those people together, going down to our zoning buildings or permitting buildings, talking to the people who are over those in those areas, in those spaces, and not really looking for the national government or the federal government, sorry, to be kind of controlling that. They don't have that much authority on it. So what did David said? David said, Clark, I hope you are right. This is just a negotiation. I hope you yet they are definitely not going to help the housing market. I apologize too if my computer is free. Just let me know. I have so many windows open, and I think the internet that I have on my end is not the best. I need to upgrade my internet possibly with me doing live stream so we can kind of stop some of this freezing. But yeah, I'm hoping that it is just a negotiation tactic. I feel like that's what he's trying to do. I'm not sure because again, I don't have like one-on-one talks with Trump per se or the government or the federal government, and I'm not in those rooms in those spaces. But I'm hoping this is a tactic to try to force people and like kind of force their hand, and hopefully will allow people to get in the rooms and spaces to kind of start negotiating. Because if not, like you stated, we will definitely be entering a trade war. I already saw that, of course, Trump put the 25% tariffs in place today. I believe Canada came out and spoke about that today and said that they will in turn be putting tariffs in place because of the American tariffs that Trump put in place. And then China said they are going to fight back as well. I think they're going to sue the American government because of the trade. What did they say? It was the trade, something about it not being lawful as far as the trading, whatever agreement they kind of had in place. And then also Mexico said that they are going to fight in regards to the trade too. So yeah, we are definitely going to be entering into a trade situation if this negotiation tactic that he might be trying to play per se, if it does not work, we will be entering into those realms, and we don't want to enter into that space because, like you said, David, it will not help the housing crisis at all. It definitely will not. He said, MHOA said, not going to help anything or anybody. Exactly. It's not going to help anyone, anything. So it's just so interesting that, I really don't understand what he's doing, honestly, as far as him trying to do this tactic or this try to create this war and these tariffs and stuff. And it's really interesting because it's like, is no one over there advising what is going on? Let's go down here. It says right here, Realtor.com chief economist Daniel Hale, he's told Fox Business that the U.S. is facing a deficient, between 2.5 million and 7.2 million homes, which underscores the dire need to build more housing. She said regulatory requirements, which can add significant cost to building, have been a barrier to ramping up supply, are a good place to start. So basically, again, stating what as far as getting some of that red tape kind of, out of the space as far as when it comes to builders building homes, more new construction. But I have a take on that too. So we'll kind of dive into that, and you guys let me know what you feel about that. And then that kind of goes on some more. And so I'm trying to go to another part of the other part, which he said, as far as right here, it says lower, like the Fed rates right here. It says while he argues Trump can't wave a wand to the solving the housing crisis, Roberts believe Trump's policies, and his rhetoric and pressure on the Federal Reserve can influence key economic levers such as lower prices and lower mortgage rates. He said if he can exert influence over the Fed to lower rates and spur economic growth. Sorry, somebody is texting me. There's a pathway to improving conditions for home buyers, Robert said. So that's another thing that we kind of stated earlier, how Trump said that he's going to try to lower interest rates. Again, people, Trump does not control interest rates. He does not control the federal government does not control the Federal Reserve. It is a different entity. Trump cannot control interest rates, federal interest rates. And if you guys also understand, I'm not a mortgagor, But when you're in real estate, you kind of talk to a mortgage or a lot or a broker, mortgage broker or a lender per se, and you kind of understand that the federal reserve, when they reduce the interest rate, is indirectly corresponds with the mortgage interest rates. So it doesn't always, it typically does go hand in hand. As far as when they reduce that, you'll see the mortgage rates kind of reduce because they are kind of baking in and trying to predict where the interest rates are going to go and how it can affect, the rates on the mortgage end per se. But sometimes it doesn't always play out because it's indirect. The mortgage rates are indirectly linked to the Fed rates. So with that being the case, this time around, when they lowered the interest rates, the Feds lowered the interest rates to try to reduce, the inflation per se. They're trying to reduce inflation, but they had to lower the interest rates because the economy is kind of shaky right now. It's all over the place. They don't know where they're going. And Jerome Powell also stated in one of his conferences at the end of one of their meetings, he said that it kind of got out of control and what they were trying to do is not really working per se no more. So they're trying to figure out how to sustain the U.S. economy because what they're doing is not working, and they're noticing that inflation is still soaring in some areas. However, in other areas, it's kind of tanking as far as our economy. So they're trying to find a balance per se. But again, I'm not an economist, nor am I a mortgagor or a federal chief economist at the Federal Reserve. I'm just going off of what they are stating and looking at some of the data. What did MHOA say? He said China filed a complaint with the WTO. Yes, that's what they filed a complaint. Yes, I knew they filed something, but they are saying that they're trying to possibly, sue America for the whole trading situation that Trump kind of put in place. David says this seems like the wrong thing to focus on this early in new administration. It definitely is the wrong thing to focus on. I feel like he's trying to think like, oh, I'm this big and powerful beast. I'm this man that's going to be able to create, this great change in America, and I'm going to do it with the housing crisis because everybody is screaming the housing unaffordability, housing crisis. So let's tackle this, but he's tackling it in the wrong way, right? He's not tackling it in the right way. So let's get off of this page real quick. And then we're going to go real quick and we're going to talk about these tariffs. So because I just want to show you guys, as far as, like I stated earlier, he did put the tariffs in place. And if we do not, similar to like how he turned around, and I don't want to turn this into a big old channel in regards to politics but we know that housing and everything in the economy, sorry you guys, things is like, I'm like, what the heck is going on? I'm like, what is going on? But everything kind of revolves around our political states when it comes to housing and the economy, the financial sector. So we need to, kind of put some politics on blast here. Excuse me. And again, I apologize if my screen is freezing you guys. Once I kind of unload some of these windows that are open, it'll probably go back to not freezing as frequently. MHOA said these tariffs on top of the recent increase in state and local taxes is putting me on a spending strike. Yeah, it's putting me on a spending strike too. You're not the only one, MHOA. I definitely have decided not to spend as frequently. I've decided to actually, I think I've talked about this several times on the live. I've decided to also, try to eliminate some debt. And I'm trying to start paying things off because I don't want to be in a space where I can't afford to actually to live, Hey, what's going on, Chloe? We are in a very, very strange times. Yes, we are in very strange times, Chloe. And I know a couple lives ago you stated that you want to possibly purchase a house, and that's why I mentioned before, just talk to your local professional in your area and ask them to make sure they tell you the truth about what's happening in the market, right? Don't because I know some realtors will say, oh, you should buy. And I always tell people it's when you're comfortable and you're in the right space to buy. So if you don't feel comfortable to buy right now because of the shakiness of the market, then you go by what your feeling is, right? At the end of the day, is it a good space? Oh my God, my screen is daggone. My screen is freezing so much, y'all, on my end. Is it a good space to, of course, have home ownership no matter where you're at in the world? Of course. and it's always great to have it in America. So I don't want to tell you not to purchase, but I want to make sure you're making a smart decision when you're purchasing and that it is a good time for you, right? Okay, my screen is continuously freezing. I don't know what is going on, you guys. Tonight is not a. I'm like, once I talk about this whole political issue, now my screen is freezing all crazy. Hey, what's going on, Papa Donkos 360? I don't know if I'm saying your name right. Hopefully, I am. Hello from Toronto. How you doing? Yes, let us know what's going on in Canada. Let us know with all this craziness that he decided to create on this Sunday. Our Prime Minister disrespected Trump, and now the rest of us Canadians pay the price. Oh, that's not good. We shoot. Why is my screen doing this? Canada has become so expensive that I am setting up to leave for Greece. I've heard a lot of people over in Canada. There's a few people that kind of check out the channel and they've messaged me, emailed me, or sent me type of messages on the back end, and they're telling me how very expensive Canada has become. I've never visited Canada personally, but I've heard it's become very, very expensive, and a lot of Canadians are trying to, kind of relocate to a more cheaper place. Says things are 10 times worse in Canada than US. Socialist government in Canada destroys standard of living. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. I feel like everybody is creating a disaster for just the average people that are just trying to live lives. Like we as the average people, we make up the everyday I don't want to say population because we're all population, but we make up the everyday spending per se of the municipalities and the local governments and the stores and everything in the area. And like I was telling one of my friends earlier, when you have home ownership, your property taxes is paying for those. So going to paying for the school systems in the area, going to pay for the fire stations in the area, and you're kind of is paying for these other municipalities and these schools, to kind of exist to create a whole environment per se in that area, right? So we as people, we have more power than we think, and I don't want to cause an uprising on my life on my life, but we have more power than we think. So we have to take back our power and our control and let them know that we're not going to, whether it be, like MHOA said, kind of stop, create a spending strike where you not spend in certain areas that you spend at, maybe start saving more to the side or reduce debt like I'm trying to do, because we have to realize that our power, we have a lot of power as just the regular people that make up our, our cities and our counties per se. We are really, we pay for everything that exists around us, right? As far as property taxes and things like that. $2,500 to rent one bedroom apartment in Toronto. Oh my God, that is crazy. Woo, Lord Jesus. All right, y'all. I'm going to share the screen real quick because I know I don't, but I appreciate everybody. That is crazy. $2,500. Woo. And what I'm about to talk about later on, you're gonna be looking at me like I'm crazy when I talk about what I went to this week when I went to a housing meeting down here in Atlanta. I like to go to a lot of housing meetings. I like to go to a lot of county meetings. I went to we had a homestead exemption opt-out meeting. I went to that. I advised like past clients about it who might not have known about it. I went to a housing meeting as far as it's called Planning A, which they're trying to do in Atlanta. It's different counties around Atlanta. We have Fulton, Cobb, DeKalb, Clayton, all those different counties that make up the perimeter per se of Atlanta. And I kind of try to go to each county because I have clients that I service in all these counties. So if I can make it out to them, I try to do my best to kind of know what's going on. So when people come to me to try to whether purchase or sell a house, I can kind of see what's going on, how the market is moving. So anyway, let's get into this real quick. It says before, again, CNN tries to take this platform away from me one more time. So it says Trump says America has all the trees it needs, but fixing the housing crisis may mean depending on Canadian wood. So right here, oh shoot, it's doing it again. All right, so we can't use this website no more. Let me go to another website real quick. Sorry, y'all. Trump tariffs. We're not going to use this daggone. Let's just use CNBC. Sorry about that, y'all. Let's just do it this way. So we'll use CNBC real quick. It doesn't want me to be great today. It don't want me to be great. Don't want me to have a conversation that we all need to be having around the world. Whether you're in Canada, like Papa Day Coast, I think I'm saying the name right, in Canada, or whether we're in America, we need to be having these conversations, you guys. So we're gonna be great. His MHOA said that's about $1,800 USD That's about the going rate. And okay, so I didn't know the difference between Canadian money and US money. So yeah, so it's about so yeah, so basically it's the same thing like MHOA said. So wow, yeah, I didn't know the difference. Thank you MHOA for that because I didn't know what that kind of translated to in our money. He says our dollar is dropping to a peso level. Ooh, not peso level. That's not good. All right. So right here it says Trump flaps tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China. And so if you guys don't know, and I'm pretty sure you probably know, if you visited Christina Smallhorn, one of my fellow YouTubers today, they were kind of talking about this a lot over in her chat. And so I'm not going to fixate on it too much because I'm pretty sure if you guys follow real estate on YouTube and you're looking at the news, you kind of saw this. So we'll breeze through this real quick so I don't get you guys stuck over here. But it says President Donald Trump is pushing ahead with long threatened imported tariffs on goods from Canada, Mexico, and China. On Saturday, Trump signed an order imposing 25% tariffs on inputs from Mexico and Canada, as well as 10% duty on China. Energy resources from Canada will be hit with lower 10% tariff to minimize any disruptive effects we might have on the gasoline and home heating oil prices, according to a senior administration. So if you guys don't know, a lot of our softwood per se comes from Canada, right? We get a big percentage of our wood for building houses in America. Softwood per se comes from Canada. So with Trump putting these tariffs in place, this could possibly create an exacerbating cost when it comes to new construction home prices in America, right? And as we mentioned earlier, it's going to create a trade war. So with him trying to say that he's going to lower costs per se in America as far as housing, that's not going to lower the housing because all you're going to do is really exacerbate the cost of housing because you put these tariffs in place, and these countries in turn they're going to fight back because they're like, okay, now you're making it more difficult for us, you're costing us a lot more money, so we are going to in turn put it back on you per se. And those tariffs are not going to do nothing because what happens with tariffs is all it does is it trickles over to, let's say, the builder, and in turn the builder it then puts the prices on the consumer. That's just like if you go to a grocery store and all of a sudden with the tariffs happening, even like because it will affect the goods and from like China and all those other places that we get different goods from. It's going to make stuff expensive all across the board, not only housing but also the food, certain foods, certain things, electronics you buy, like they say, the oil, gas, heating. If you're still heating your house with natural gasoline, well, not natural gasoline, but oil per se, or gasoline that you bring and fill up your heating tank, your oil tanks in your house to heat your house, that's going to go up. So it's going to be crazy. MHOA logging has played out in the Pacific Northwest, where they're gonna clear why can't I talk about where they're gonna clear cut Roosevelt National Forest. I don't know where they're gonna cut at. I don't know where they're gonna cut at. All this stuff is kind of crazy to me. Let's go and read this part real quick down here. That I saw too in regards to what Trump was doing on Housing Wire. If you guys don't know, you can kind of go to these different websites and check out some of the stuff. We kind of talked about before about the National Association of Home Builders. They wrote a letter to Donald Trump. We talked about on one of the lives the 10-point plan they had in place to address the housing affordability. So I don't want to talk on that again. But I wanted to touch on one part around here. It was in regards to home insurance. So he made mention about home insurance too, as far as him lowering the cost of home insurance. So it says right here, where are we gonna go? This is title. Let's go to title right here. Let's kind of dive in here. It says, like the National Association of Realtors, the American Land Title Association also said it commends Trump for his early commitment to tackling housing issues in the country. They said, we look forward to working collaboratively with the administration on thoughtful and evidence-based approaches to increase access to homeownership for more families and communities nationwide. So the ALT spokesperson wrote in an email, the title industry, insurance industry has been under scrutiny under the Biden administration, having been referred to as a junk fee, but it was hoping that these may change under the second Trump administration. However, the push to lowering housing costs may renew scrutiny of settlement service fees and title insurance premiums. the exact scenario the title industry was hoping to escape. Says another area in which Trump administration may look to lower housing costs is by working to reduce the cost of homeowners insurance, as many, including the Treasury's Federal Insurance Office, attribute housing affordability challenges in certain markets like Florida and California for rising costs. However, the American Property Casualty Insurance Association, the APCIA, disagrees with this assertion. Although the trade group supports the Trump administration's initiative to lower housing costs and increase supply, the APCIA attributes the affordability increase to inflation. So basically, this is another area where Donald Trump is saying how the Trump administration is going to tackle housing affordability through the rising home insurance costs, through the quote unquote titles costs per se. So all these different areas the administration is trying to quote unquote Trump, I should say, right? They're trying to lower them, trying to reduce the cost, and it's great, right? We understand the bigger picture per se, right? It's great because we know housing affordability is not only in America, it's all over the world. And it's great that we have an administration looking to try to reduce these costs to future home buyers. But at the end of the day, we have to all be on the same page to reduce them accordingly so people could actually be able to buy a house in America. What we're doing right now is he's going the opposite way. You're placing tariffs on things. You're placing costs on other spaces. You're taking away certain entities, and all that's going to do is cause things to go up in price. It's not going to lower it. In order to get things to lower, you have to sit down with all these areas. How home insurance. The people that do the property tax assessors per se, the assessment tax assessors, sit down with the zoning and permitting people. You sit down with the local governments of the states. You got to come. It has to be a whole thing. You guys come in the room to do. You just can't start imposing your way and your will and saying we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and you have no idea what each state is going through as far as housing. So America is similar to other continents around the world where it's not just one country, per se. In America, we go by states. In other parts of the world, they go by countries. But yet, in America, we have 50 states. If I'm wrong, correct me. It might be 51 now, but I think it's 50. We have 50 states, and then I think it's 2 that are territories. Don't give me the line. But so every state works differently, right? We don't all work on the same accord. And that's why I always tell people when you're looking for housing, it's great to look at, the housing things that people do on YouTube and social media and TikTok and Instagram. And people tell you that they bought a house and they bought land and they built this and it only cost them this amount of money to do so. But then you need to dig deeper into that and say, okay, well, where exactly did you buy the land at? Where exactly did you, what state are you in? What area are you in? What city are you in? What county are you in? It's all very localized. And that's what is not happening here with this, what he's doing as far as just placing all these random, tariffs and random, trying to, do these like random, I guess you could say, implement these rules or these federal laws or these whatever in all these places. And it's like, dude, this is very localized. It's not all over the place. It's not one just, let me just take it and just throw it across all of America. But anyway, before I'm going, I don't want to go on a rant, you guys. I don't want to seem like I'm going crazy over here, but it just baffles my mind that this man is out here just throwing stuff like random tariffs and doing stuff in this, and it's just crazy to me. Anyway, let's kind of jump into something that what Chloe said. She said, yes, I agree. Things can be completely different, even city to city. Exactly. So that's the thing that just kind of scares me because it's very generalized. It's like a blanket placed over the whole country. You can't just place a blanket over the whole country. Just like people, we have complexities. It's just like the states. It's just like how things are ran around America. Just like how cities are ran. As like I look at everything as a whole, right? Like I look at it as like I look at it almost to me like a body, like a person's body, right? We all have a body per se, but all our bodies are different per se, right? And we function according to what our body needs or how we move through the day and different things like that. That's just generalized across the board. We all everything is different, even though it might be the same, but it's different when you start to break it down and get more specific. And so you just can't turn around and just put a blanket over everything. And that's not how it works. And that's what he's doing, which is crazy to me. But anyway, I want to jump into real quick as well. So at the end of the live, what I'm going to start doing, I appreciate you guys being here with me tonight. At the end of our live, because I'm located in the Metro Atlanta area, I'll start to kind of break down more of what I'm seeing in Atlanta's market. So if you know anybody in this market, want more information about this market, just curious what's happening over here, I'm going to start to kind of break that down later on the end of the live. But what I found fascinating, though, is in regards to what is happening. So in 2024, the second quarter, I don't know if you guys came across this, if you watch, if you are, in these, if you're looking at these websites like Adam, or if you're looking at certain YouTubers or certain things. And I don't want to be the doom and gloom YouTuber, because I'm definitely not. I'm all for, people having home ownership. That's the whole purpose of me starting this channel, is to promote home ownership, of course. But at the end of the day, I want to be transparent. I want to be honest, and I want to be open and real of what's happening in the market. Like I said, we're doing a very generalized market right now in the beginning, and then I'll get more specific as far as when it comes close to the end in regards to the Atlanta metropolitan market. But I don't know if you guys saw this, but it says top 10 states with underwater mortgages. So we'll switch off the Donald Trump craziness and all the stuff that he's doing. I appreciate you guys being here. I know everybody, it's a very big topic, because it's just every day is something going on with this man, every day. Like one of my colleagues at our office, at my brokerage, she has an alert for every day. He's just crazy. But anyway, they broke down in September 30th, 2024. So this was based off of a second quarter, and they broke it down. So this is a little dated. So things might have either went up or down as far as this. But I have to wait for the next report to come out. But it's stating that these are the top 10 states with underwater mortgages. So if you guys don't know what an underwater mortgage is, basically it's saying that if you bought a house, let's say you bought a house for $300,000, and then everybody else around you 6 months later starts to sell for $250. That means you currently paid more, which brings your equity, which means that equity wise, you are $50,000 underwater, because the houses around you are now selling for $250. You bought at $300. I've seen a lot of this actually starting to happen down in this metropolitan area of Atlanta. I know some realtors don't want to say it, but I've seen it. I've actually had a client that wanted me to list. I think I talked about this before on the live and several other lives. I had a client that I talked to actually 2 years ago, and we're still in talks. They wanted me to list their condo they bought for $889,000. After I did my thorough research on comparables and what's happening in their building, they are actually $100,000 underwater compared to when they bought their condo, utilizing when they moved down here, relocated down here, they utilized another realtor to help them buy this condo. And I'm not sure, I don't know what the conversation was, but I don't know if the realtor told them, oh, don't worry about it, it's going to grow. My phone is dinging off, sorry. Don't worry about purchasing at $889,000. In 2 years, it's going to be $1 million. It's going to grow. Typically real estate appreciates. It's going to grow. And yeah, typical real estate, it does appreciate about 2 to 5% a year, depending on where you're at, depending on the market that you're in, right? However, because of the pandemic, we saw unrealistic appreciation. So with that unrealistic appreciation, things are starting to deflate a little bit, because guess what? We saw unnormal activity in appreciation. Things appreciated so quickly, felt like 50% in some areas, 75%, 100%, 200% of appreciation within a year time frame, a 2 year time frame. And that's not how typical appreciation happens in the housing market. And so now things are starting to soften a little bit, because you can't, that's an unnormal appreciation. And we all know that our salaries are not keeping up income wise with the home appreciation. And typically it kind of goes hand in hand. Our salary keeps up along with how the market kind of inflates, for us to still be able to maintain and still buy, or whether it be groceries, whether it be houses, whether it be renting apartments, whatever you're doing on your end, that's how it kind of appreciates, right? What David said, he said, ouch, 100,000 would be a tough pill to swallow. Yes, it is. And I keep them updated what's happening in their building, because if you guys don't know, when it comes to appraisers typically, especially with condos, they appraise it in the building. And most appraisers, if you have a single family detached home or a townhouse, they appraise within the subdivision first. Then, if they don't find enough comparables or things that sold within the last 3 to 6 months, mostly 6 months, they'll go out. Sometimes they'll go out a whole year if they don't see anything. But if they find stuff within like 3 to 4 comparables or houses that sold that are similar to yours, they'll use them to then create what the appraisal price might be for the unit, for the house, for the townhouse. And if they can't find anything within that time frame, and if they go out that 12-month year span, they will then start to go out of the subdivision or out of the building or out of the neighborhood and start to find other things that compare, that are similar to the house that is the subject house in which they are appraising. And I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully it does. MHOA say, I went underwater in 2008, only took a couple years to come back though. After 2008, had several years of double-digit increases. That's good. That's good, MHOA. And I'm hoping, because we people will see, will go underwater, unfortunately, because of them buying in 2020, 2021, 2022, and overpaying appraisal gaps and all this stuff. So they will go underwater, but hopefully it won't take as much time for it to kind of come back up. So let's check out these states real quick. And Georgia is one of them. Which I keep telling people, and everybody in my office keep telling me that I'm wrong. I'm like, am I the only one looking at this? Can I not? Am I the only one looking at this? I literally see on some of these homes where it says distressed properties in the states, and it states like pre-foreclosure or foreclosure. And I want to show y'all it on here, but the problem is that it has the addresses are there, and if I put it on here with the addresses, the YouTube will flag the whole video, so I can't never show y'all what I'm seeing on my end as far as when it comes to the where it says like distressed properties or foreclosure. And it's some properties that's been in distress since 2017, you guys. It's not something new. So even people that bought prior to 2020, 2021, 2022, so it's getting crazy. But anyway, he said under or above water, I need a place to live anyway. Exactly, MHOA. So I'm like, I don't want to put no fear in people's heart as far as like being underwater, right? So I get what you're saying, and I hope people understand what I'm saying. I'm not trying to scare you out of home ownership. I'm not trying to scare you out of buying a house. At the end of the day, you need some place to live regardless, right? And if you know that you're going to be living in this house for the next 5 to 10 years, it'll probably come back even. You'll probably appreciate over what you bought it for at the end of the day, right? But if you bought the house, let's say a year ago, like I have a client now that came to me, they bought their house a year ago and they want to sell it. They're 30,000 underwater right now. They were the highest. They bought it for at the top, and everything else literally 2 months later sold less than what they bought it for. So you have to give it some time, right? When you're underwater, you got to give it some time, because that's how everything ebbs and flows, right? Everything ebbs and flows. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. So I don't want to scare anybody out of like owning a home, whatever they're trying to do. I just want to be, like I said, very transparent and let you know what's kind of going on. But yes, whether you're above water or underwater, like MH08 said, you still need a place to live, right? So let's dive into this real quick, because I'm like, dang, I thought I wasn't going to be this long on these topics, that I'm taking forever. I need to shut my mouth. I talk too much. So it says, here's a list of the top 10 states with underwater mortgages by count as of Q2 2024. So it says Texas, 109,000, Illinois, 102,000, Ohio, 91,000, Pennsylvania, 88,000, California, 85,000, Louisiana, 67,000, Florida, 61,000. So of course I'm just reading the front part of it. I'm not rounding it up. Georgia, 49,000, Michigan, 47,000, and Missouri, 46,000. Then it says, here's a list of the top 10 states with underwater mortgages by percentage as of Q2 2024. So it's going by percentages, where it says 10.5% in Louisiana, 6.8%, Mississippi, Kentucky, 6.3%, Arkansas, 5.4%, Iowa, 5.2%, North Dakota, 5.5%, Oklahoma, 5%, West Virginia, 4.7%, Illinois, 4%, and Missouri, 3.9%. So I found that very interesting, very fascinating in regards to some of these areas or states per se. I want to say states. I don't want to say areas, because again, we can dive deeper into these states, right, that are underwater mortgages, and we can come to a city or a county where no one's underwater with their mortgage, right? It's just very, again, it's very a vague blanket per se over the whole state, right? Because again, when you start diving in, it might be a city over here where a person might be like, well, everything's over here selling, at great value. No one's overbuying and things is great over here. No mortgage, no place, no people for foreclosing over here, or no people are underwater over here. So it breaks down more and more and more and more. So, but I thought that was very interesting. So I just figured I would bring that to your attention. What Chloe said, I appreciate that you are honest and share facts. Sometimes the truth can be scary, but it's important to hear. Yes, that's all I try to do. I try to be honest, share facts. I don't want people to be scared of home ownership, Chloe, at the end of the day, but I want people to know what home ownership looks like and what the market looks like. And at the end of the day, like I told somebody today as well, because a lot of people use this whole thing in regards to, well, I don't want to, well, why buy a house? I can just rent. It's cheaper to rent nowadays than buy a house. A mortgage is more expensive. Okay, I understand the mortgage is, is more expensive nowadays than renting. However, in the long run, rents will typically go up unless a big financial crisis happens per se. Rents will go up because as inflation happens, these people that own these buildings, whether it be apartment buildings, single family houses or whatever, property taxes increase, insurance increases, HOA fees increase, all these things increase. So in turn, in order for them as the apartment man, the owner per se, or the house owner that has these rentals or whatever, they're like, okay, well, my bills went up, so all I'm going to do is push it on to you as a consumer. So now your rent's going to go up, right? And so people are like, well, I rather rent because I never own America. Yeah, America, we all know America is a capitalistic country. We all understand that there is technically, quote unquote, you don't never own anything in America, right? But at the end of the day, you'll have more of a solitude paying off a mortgage and just paying property taxes and home insurance, and HOA fees if you want to be in an HOA, than to sit here and realize that you keep paying somebody else's rent and you never own it. And at the end of the day, you still got to pay. You still got to pay to live somewhere. At the end of the day, you still got to pay to live somewhere, whether you're renting or buying. And there's nothing against people who rent, homes, because I'm a big proponent of shelter. I should say sheltership. I don't even know if that's a word. Of shelter in general, right? I want everybody to have a place to lay their head, whether it be a homeowner, whether you want to stay in an apartment. I'm not in the business of convincing nobody to move out of an apartment. If you want to live in an apartment, that is fine with me, because at the end of the day, you are okay with that, and I'm okay with your decision, because you are not me, right? I'm just here to educate, advocate, and tell you, the different things, right? Unless you're going over to Africa where they don't pay for property taxes, or whatever countries per se that they don't pay for taxes. In America, you will always pay to live regardless. It just is what it is. We're a capitalist country, and when people have to remember that, right? MHOA said lose 50 grand divided by the time you live there and call it rent. Yeah, so he said AG states. I'm like, what's AG states? I don't know what that means. I don't know if I read it wrong. David said, I'm a little surprised to see North Dakota on the list. Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see certain states on the list. I kind of knew Georgia might be on the list, even though a lot of people down here don't want to talk about it. But just because, like I said, what I'm seeing in my MLS system, I was waiting for them to say, oh, agriculture. Sorry about that. Agriculture. Okay, agricultural states. Okay. Yes. A lot of them are agricultural states. Those Midwest or Western type of states per se. I just read something about North Dakota, but I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was farms, not the oil patch. Okay. Once you're familiar with the scaries, they become annoyances. Yeah. Yeah. So I just want people, just to get, a realistic view around everything. Now, I don't want to scare you off of being a homeowner, you guys. I don't want to scare you if you're a homeowner, if you're trying to buy. I just want to give you more of the reality. That's all. So because I hear a lot of people saying, they'll buy homes and they're like, well, nobody told me this, nobody said this, nobody said that. So just to like tell you a little bit. So let's talk about too when you're trying to buy a home as well. And I know David knows this, and MH08 probably knows this as well, as far as where they kind of say you should be at when it comes to the 28% rule. So if you guys never heard of this before, I talk about this a lot with some of my colleagues, and then also with the lenders that I talk to. the 28% rule. So it says mortgage to income ratio common rules. To determine how much you should spend on a mortgage every month is generally recommended to start by understanding your income, financial goals, current debts. Here are a few general rules of thumb that might help you get started. These examples can help you identify how much you can afford. So this says the 28% rule. The 28% mortgage rule states that you should spend 28% or less of your monthly gross income on your mortgage payment, including principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So if you guys don't know, when you typically pay for your mortgage, some people will escrow their taxes and insurance into one monthly payment that will include the principal, the interest, which is your mortgage right there, and then you'll have what makes up the additional part of your mortgage will be the taxes, your property taxes, the insurance, like all these additional fees, HOA fees. You can't escrow HOA fees. Well, I don't know. Let me know if you can do that, David, or not. I don't know. It's always something new that happens out here. I typically see down here in Georgia that people will pay their HOA fee separately, but the lender will put that in there because that's an expense in which people are paying monthly. However, most people will pay it online through a portal. Some people write out a check or have a pad or something that I kind of see. I don't live in the HOA, so I don't do that. But some people will do that. But they don't. It's not inside your escrow, from what I know of. I've never seen it, but things change as stuff happens. So if anybody knows, if they've seen it, let me know. Whether you're watching this on a replay or currently live with us right now, let me know if you've seen HOA kind of escrowed in there. But it says to gauge how much you can afford using this rule, multiply your monthly gross income by 28%. For example, if you make $10,000 every month, multiply 10,000 by 0.28 to get 2,800. Using these figures, your monthly mortgage payment should be no more than $2,800 a month. So, okay, so you do see it, David, huh? He said we sometimes see HOAs being escrow. Okay. Yeah, so I was like, I've never seen it before, but I just wanted to make sure. That's why I was like, if you know, let me know. I've never seen it before. But okay, so David said he's in Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska. So if you guys looking to move to Omaha, Nebraska, definitely check out David Matney's YouTube channel and subscribe and reach out to him. MHOA said, I live with the crime, traffic, and noise before I move into an HOA. Oh no, not the crime, traffic, and the noise. But so yeah, you want this 28% rule that they stated. The 2836 rule says the 2836 rule expands on the 28% rule by also considering your total debt to income ratio. It suggests limiting your mortgage cost to 28% of your gross monthly income and keeping your total debt payments, including your mortgage, car loans, student loans, credit card debt, and any other debts below 36%. The goal of the 2836 rule is to consider your overall financial situation and help prevent overextending yourself with debt obligations. And then they have these other rules. But if you guys want to check out the different rules that they state, but I always tell people the best thing to do is, if you can, because I understand depending on where you live at, things can be very expensive. Remember, real estate is specific to your market and also specific to what you're making financially as far as income, because every state might, depend on where you live at, you might make more than somebody that lives in Georgia. Like I know the typical, let's go off of a teacher salary in Georgia. A teacher salary in Georgia, typical teacher might enter this workspace maybe making $40,000 or $50,000. I think $50,000 now because they got a raise. $50,000 plus a year. But up in, let's say, New York, a teacher might enter making, I don't know New York's things, but I'm thinking from living up there in the past that a teacher might enter at maybe 70 or 80,000 or maybe $100,000. I don't know where it's at now, but in the past it was like around like 60,000, 70,000. But so it depends on where you live, right? Everything's very specific to where you're at. Chloe said in San Diego, it's almost impossible to find something paying 2,800 a month. Yeah, so in that case, like they said, you would just multiply, like you said, for example, if you make 10,000 every month, times that by 0.28. So if you make more than 10,000 a month, depending on your salary, I'm not sure if you have like a husband as well, but if both of you guys together combine your income, time and take the 0.28 or 28%, depending on how you do on the calculator, and see what's good and try to go below it, right? Because the object of buying a house, this is why I tell everybody, right? the object of buying a house is not for you to lose the house. The object of buying a house is that for you to create long ownership in it and also wealth in buying a house, right? So I always tell everybody, and I know people find this very weird that I do this. When I talk to my clients when they're buying a house, I always tell them, he said, MHOA says, it gross, is that gross or net? I would say net. I would say net. I think they're going by gross on here. They're going by gross, but I would say net because the only reason why I say net, um, bank, who was that bank rate where we were? No, Chase Bank. That's where we were just at. They were talking about the 28% rule. They're doing that based off of gross. I will only say net, and the reason why I say net, and I know people might beat me up in the comments about this, is because we want to make sure that you can sustain the house when you buy the house because we know over time things will increase. Again, property taxes will go up, homeowners insurance will go up because of natural disasters, because of whether you put claims on the house and different things or whatever, things will, will go up in time, right? It's just natural. That's how it's always worked per se in America, besides the time we had that, the whole housing situation. And if we have a financial crisis situation, we might see it go down again. I don't know. Um, but as of right now, I can't, I can't predict what's going on. I can just read the data, and I feel like we will find some type of relief somewhere. I don't know when, don't know how, but we will, because things have to relieve. What goes up must come down, right? But I would go off of your net just to be safe. But so like I typically tell like when I work with buyers, not really people selling their house, but buyers, I'll first say, hey, you know, if you like this house, you're interested in this house, before we put an offer in, give this house to, let's ship over this address to your lender, right? And we're going to get a good faith estimate. A good faith estimate will give you how much you might possibly be paying mortgage wise. The lender will take the property, they'll take the amount of the house per se. So I'll typically say, okay, well, this is what we're going to offer. I'll say, okay, tell the lender this is the address, tell the lender, and I can also write an email, because I'll write the emails too and CC people on the emails with me with the lender. And I'll say, hey, we're thinking about offering this amount. How much would their monthly estimate be at this amount? And then the lender will say, okay, no problem. I will, do that. Sometimes some lenders will ask me, like, do you know what the taxes are on it? Do you know what I write now? Sometimes send them over what I'm seeing, tax wise per se. And then they'll spit out a possible estimate. It's a good faith estimate. Most lenders won't do it sometimes because they don't want to do, they might not do it until you go under contract or have a contract in place. And that's when they'll do it. But you can always ask up front, say, hey, can you give me a good faith estimate? And see how much it is, right? Because you would then know if you're taking this rule of thumb, right? And if you want to bump it up to 30% or 36%, it's okay, right? I just don't suggest nobody go more than I don't suggest nobody go more than 36%. Honestly, 28% is perfect, but I suggest you don't go more than 36% because I don't want you to stretch yourself thin, right? And then you can say, okay, perfect. I know that this is within my budget. I can afford this. And then when you go to the closing table, it might, sometimes I've seen it where the lender might over extend some of the fees per se, just because when you close, you're like, oh, this is actually cheaper than what you told me. And sometimes the lenders just do that to give you some type of a spread, whatever. So you can tell the lender, like, okay, can you make my insurance a little, like, when you're calculating things, can you make the insurance a little higher? Can you make the property tax a little higher? And just like you can kind of see where it could be if it gets higher over the time cost, over time per se. I know some people don't like that, but I don't know. I'm always a person I'm like, I'd rather you go higher just to see what it could possibly be than to go just right at where it's at, because then I'm like, I know this is going to get higher over time. So but you can ask for the good faith estimate, and then we'll go, like, I'll go through the whole thing of course with my clients, and then I'll get to the closing table, and before they sign, I'll say this with everybody, and I know they look at me like, Devon, do you want me to buy the house or not? And I'm like, you sure you want to buy this? Can you afford this? Can you afford that monthly mortgage? You okay with that? We can leave, even though we leave right now. I told you earlier, we might not get the earnest money back because we kind of passed our contingencies per se. But if you're, but this is still a time, if you want to back out before you can't afford it, let's back out, And but people are like, no, I can afford it, thank you, or whatever. But at the end of the day, my goal, like I said, is not to allow you to buy a house that you can't afford to live in. That's not the goal. Chloe said gross. Yes, according to the 28% rule, they're going by the gross, but I tell people you should go by the net if possible. 36% with no credit card or other debt. Yeah, exactly. MHOA 36% if you don't have no other additional debts. Like that's another great way to look at it as well. You know, you just want to be in a good place, right? As we go through life, we accrue more things and we more costs increase. So we just want to be in a good space. So now let me see. I want to kind of touch on this real quick, and then I'll let you guys go because I don't know if you guys watch the Grammys, but I know the Grammys are on tonight, which is kind of interesting to me because I didn't think they were going to have the Grammys because of the whole California wildfires thing. But maybe they're looking at it. Okay, let's have the Grammys per se because, um, you know, this can bring some type of happiness or relief to California, or you know, money per se into California. But it's very interesting. But anyway, off of that, because I'll go on a whole tangent about that too. Oh Lord, that's not so. Anyway, let's kind of dive into real quick. The He said the show must go on. Yes, they always said that the show must go on. The show must go on, and folks have to have savings for when life happens. Exactly, David. Folks must have savings for when life happens. And this is what I tell people too. Even people that are using down payment assistance, I get people that you know, that'll come. Some lenders will come to me and they'll have their clients will be on a down payment assistance program, right? And when they come to me, I'll ask them, do you have anything in your savings account? And they'll look at me, they're like, what? I'm using down payment assistance. I'm like, I think it's always great to have some additional savings, even if you're using down payment assistance, right? So I know some people be like, well, you know, I don't have it. That's why I'm utilizing this program. And I totally understand it. But I always tell people, like David said, life happens. You can buy the house. Everything can be inspected by the inspector. Somebody, it can even maybe even be a new HVAC system, or maybe a new roof, or maybe whatever. And these things are all new, right? And then something can randomly occur. You know, something can hit the roof. You know, a hole can occur, and the plumbing system, or a drainage, or a root from a tree gets in it, or you know, the HVAC system automatically, you know, decides to break. And you know, and you can also have a home warranty in place as well, but for like the HVAC system, appliances, and all that stuff too. But I always tell people it's just great to have savings, even if you're doing down payment assistance. Like David says, life happens, have savings, you know. And David said, amen. Yes, amen. Busted sword ran me just short of $13,000. Then 2 years later, $12,000 on the roof. Yeah, yeah, and that's life. Like, you know, like David said, like MH08 said, things happen, right? And so we want to kind of be prepared if possible. Like, we're not going to be prepared for everything in life, right? But if we could put some things aside for possibilities, for things that occur as we, you know, as we go through the years in life, and it's just always good to just have something kind of saved up. So now this is the part of the live. Before I get off of here, I'm going to dive into more of the metropolitan Atlanta housing market. I appreciate everybody sticking in here with me. I know we had some people come on, some people leave. So if you're interested in the housing market in Atlanta, here's we're going to kind of talk about this a little bit. Like I mentioned to you guys, I had went to a recent housing development meeting down here in the metropolitan area of Atlanta in Fulton County, and they were talking about the area medium income, or the AMI. So let me show you guys what the AMI is, so you guys can understand this when it comes to when a lot of these politicians, or the federal, you know, the HUD, the government, everybody, they kind of talk about the AMI. So I just wanted to mention this to you guys, because this is something that this is what they utilize to determine, sorry, like eligibility for affordable housing programs. So and this was something they were talking about in the housing meeting I went to recently this week in Atlanta, in regards to the affordability purposes. MHOA said, just last month, plumber ran his snake right into my toilet and blew it out. I'm not sure if that falls under life happens. Yes, life happens. Life happens. The plumber came over there, tried to fix something, and just blew everything out of proportion. Yep, David, that is definitely life happens. That is definitely life happens. Something that you didn't see, right? And it just randomly occurs. So the AMI, let's make this a little bit bigger real quick. And I'm only bringing this up because, like I said, I just went to this housing meeting. It says, what is, I wish this thing would go away, but I can't get rid of this for some reason, this live chat thing. Let me see. It won't go down. Oh, these websites are acting like a nutcase tonight. But it says, what is AMI? So AMI, if you guys don't know what it means, it stands for Area Medium Income, often referred to as simply as AMI, is a key metric in affordable housing. The area medium income is defined as the midpoint of specific areas income distribution and is calculated on an annual basis by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And so it says HUD refers to the figure as an MFI, the median family income based on a four-person household. So I'm bringing the AMI up, HMHOA. I'm thinking it was more like crap happens. I don't want to say the other word because I don't want to get dinged by saying cursing, but I get what you're saying, MHOA. That's funny. Um, and so I'm talking about the AMI basically because if you guys don't know, a lot of the affordable housing things down here, they utilize the AMI, right? Um, or where I don't know. Well, it's a federal government thing, right? So every area uses the area medium income, right? And so with the area medium income, I'm going to pull up this company down here that they utilize this chart. Let me make it bigger for their AMI. And so this is stating that down here in the metropolitan area, so it says Atlanta, Sandy Springs, Roswell, Georgia, HUD, Metro FMR, area median income, $96,000. And this was in 2022. So they didn't have nothing more recent, but these numbers have kind of changed. Now I think they said the area median income down here for one person is like 60, what did they say at the meeting? Like 64,000, I think. I think that's what they said. So anyway, it's basically stating that in order to let's say if you're trying to rent let's say you're trying to rent an apartment, right? And we're going to go by this standards right here since it's on the screen, even though this was in 2022. So we're saying 80% of the AMI, and you're trying to rent an apartment, right? And you're one person. That means that your income cannot exceed more than $54,000 a year to be able to get the affordable rental purchases in the building in that particular area, wherever they're building affordable housing at, right? However, my kind of argument against this, and let me know in the comments how you feel about this, whether you were watching live or on the replay. The median income is based off of that. Well, we all know in math that the median number is the number per se, what in the middle, or the number that kind of occurs. Is it the numbers that are how when they're arranged, right? The number that kind of sits in the middle, right? The middle value in a set of numbers where they when they're arranged in order. So my thing is like if I'm in, so say if I'm in a community per se, right? And all of a sudden this community, no one has ever made more than, let's say, $30,000 a year. Like this whole particular community, everybody made $30,000 a year. And then all of a sudden, which we're seeing happening now, people are shifting into these communities, right? Because affordability per se. And they're like, oh, I can go over here, and the houses over here are only, let's say, $100,000 for a house. And I'm moving from California. My house is $1 million. So now they're bringing their salary, their income that maybe they're making $250,000 a year to this area where everybody only makes $30,000 a year, and then you start getting more of these people like $100-something thousand a year, $250,000 a year, $70,000 a year. And now if you're taking the medium income, this is how I'm interpreting it. And if I'm interpreting it wrong, you guys let me know. But from how I kind of read this is that if I'm getting the middle number and we're going, and now all of a sudden, let's say the middle number becomes now, it's not 30,000 no more, or 10,000 or 20,000, whatever. Now all of a sudden the middle number is 70,000. And I'm like, well, I still only make $30,000 a year. How do I afford, these apartments or this area per se, because if you're going by the area medium income, I can get into these spaces because I make less than that. However, if you set the apartment rental to somebody making $54,000 a year instead of making $30,000 a year, because you're basing off of the medium income per se, if the apartment is $1,000 a month and all I can pay because of how much I make is $500 a month, how do I get into these apartments, right? So this was like a big talk that kind of was going on at the housing meeting in regards to affordability. And so I want to play this video too of what's happening outside of not only the affordability housing in Atlanta that's being built, and I applaud the mayor in the metropolitan area of Atlanta. However, there's always some type of redlining or some red tape in place where people still cannot afford to buy or rent, right? So this is more around renting. And I know this is a real estate channel, but again, renting is in real estate as well. Um, what's going on? What's going on, Zipporah? How you doing? How you doing? Hello, Devon. Hi, everyone. I think this is Zipporah, right? Zipporah is the. I think this is Zipporah. So if not, I'm sorry. I apologize. But so let's kind of take a look at this video real quick in regards. And like I say, I'm just talking about this because this is what I recently went to. And if you guys don't know, and I'm pretty sure some other cities are doing this as well, a lot of them are trying to attack this affordability crisis of housing. And it's not only in the market of buying a house, but also in the market of people trying to rent apartments or houses per se. So down here in Atlanta, Mayor Andrew Dickens is trying to attack affordability. However, we have to attack it in more spaces besides just that, right? I'm good. Yes, it is. Thank you. Okay, I thought it was. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. All right, so let's listen to this.
I started this story trying to understand how Atlanta could have so many ribbon cuttings to celebrate new, affordable housing.
We want housing to be affordable in all of the districts,
but never seem to have enough.
We really see ourselves as trying to help communities solve problems.
That's Joel Reed with Gorman and Company, a developer with 4 projects in various stages, including Sweet Auburn Grand with more than 100 units for people making 80% area median income or less. In real words, that's someone making about $60,000 a year.
Police officers.
So now this is recent. So now it is around $60,000 a year. So so I thought it was like 60 something from the meeting. They said 64 to be exact.
Our teachers.
According to the U.S. Census Bureau, Atlanta has only half of the units needed for people at that income level.
I work 6 days a week and I make $10 an hour.
While our investigation found 18% of those affordable units were created in the past 5 years. Jaqueen Wilson says those ribbon cuttings don't bring her hope.
I feel like it's for other people, but not for me.
So if you were to apply for an apartment right now, what would be the main barrier to getting that application approved?
Besides my credit score?
Wilson lives in a motel and pays about $1,200 a month.
And so this is what we're seeing down here. I don't know if you guys are seeing this where you live at. I feel like more of metropolitan areas, cities per se, are kind of seeing this more where a lot of people are paying more now monthly to live in a hotel, or paying maybe the exact amount to live in a hotel compared to living in a rental unit somewhere or affordable housing, in which the cities are trying to build to alleviate this whole housing crisis, affordability crisis situation when it comes to rental living. And however, there's so many more barriers set in place. Like this young lady said, she makes $10 an hour. She doesn't really make this area medium income. Of course, she makes lesser than that amount, so she does qualify. But if those apartments are not taking her because maybe her credit score is not the best, or maybe she still can't, she should be able to afford it because $1,200 a month, that equates to like that affordability level as far as renting in these Atlanta units down in Atlanta from what I've seen and looked at. But now the challenge is not the affordability part. Now the challenge is the other things that stand in your way, even when you're in home ownership, right? Is your credit and other, kind of mechanisms kind of standing.
It's enough to afford one of those affordable units.
I think my credit score is probably like 400, and they look at that now, so that would definitely stop me.
Even though she pays on time, rent at a motel isn't the kind of bill that gets reported to credit agencies. So she is going to have to think outside the box.
If you're paying auto insurance, talk to them, ask them to report to the credit bureau, talk to your cell phone provider.
So they have the ability to report it, just might not be part of their natural process.
Right. So they need to see a history of making good payments on time.
You can also work with a bank that offers secure credit cards, even if it's just.
So this is what I'm noticing too in this whole affordability crisis. And yes, have they done research in regards to credit score relating to people paying bills and everything and on time and people being more responsible per se with their financial financial responsibility per se? Yes. However, we have to find other ways to not lock people out of, whether it be renting affordable housing units, whether it be buying affordable houses. And I know people say, well, that's how, Devon, that's how it happened in 2008, 2007, all that, the crash happened because they were just giving loans to anybody and everybody, and people didn't have money or whatever. It's like, yeah, we still want to put people through a vetting system, but like this young lady's saying, if she's paying, you know, her credit score being a little lower, if she's paying the bills on time every month, then we need to have a way in which it can be reported, whether she can go to like the hotel person and they write her a letter or a verification or something stating that she pays her stuff on time, she's never late, and allow her to kind of transition out so she can get into these affordable unit spaces, right? Because there's no point of building these things if people can't occupy.
$500. Get the card, put it in a cup, and help rebuild your credit.
Joel Reed says, yeah, their units have minimum standards, and a bad credit score can keep someone out. But he says projects like these operate on a thin margin. They need reliable tenants to have the money to keep up with repairs.
So if you have one tenant that doesn't pay $1,000 a month and it takes a year or two to evict them, that potentially put your project in jeopardy.
And even with their rental standards, there is plenty of need.
Well, our first project we opened was residences at Westview.
So yeah, so I just wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit. I don't want to you know, do too much of that, but I just want to show other spaces too where we're seeing this affordability crisis all over the space, all over the place, in regards to what's happening. And like I said, the housing meeting I went to, the concerns that I'm seeing in affordable housing, what's happening in this Metro Atlanta area. They are, you know, trying to build more affordable housing. However, it's still, people still can't, you know, get some of these per se units because of difficulties in like the credit score and all that stuff. So and then let's touch on one more thing. I appreciate you guys still being here with me tonight. I know I'm more of in the Metro Atlanta sector, but you can kind of, I feel like this could possibly relate to where, depending on where you're at. If you're seeing any of these things happening around you, let me know. So last part I kind of want to dive into is some of these contracts that we have. So we're going to go through these contracts real quick. Again, no matter, I don't know where you guys live at and what realtors you guys are working with, but every you know, every state is different and your contracts might be different as well. But we'll go through these contracts real quick. If you have any questions about contracts, if you're working with a realtor right now, anything that you want to kind of bring up on this live while I'm here, before I get off here, let me know, and I can definitely try to answer the question while we're on live. And if you're watching this on a replay, put in the comments, and if you have a question I can answer, I will definitely get back to you. You can also email me at dclarktherealtor@gmail.com with any questions, or if you need help, you know, buying or selling a house in this Metro Atlanta area. So anyway, the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement right here. When we kind of give you like the contracts, it'll stay here. Well, I can't highlight this, but it says, this is basically says exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, and this states like foreign consideration and mutual promises contained herein, other good and valuable considerations. So this whole part is basically stating that you have hereby agreed to enter into an agreement with us to help you buy a house. Right here we have the term. I'm going to kind of paraphrase all this, you guys. And typically when I sit down with a client, I'll go through this word by word. But right now I don't want to, you know, take up too much of your time. So I'm going to paraphrase this. So the term right here says this agreement begins on this date, it ends on this date. With a buyer, I typically do 3 months. I feel like that's a good space because when people get into pre-approval, your pre-approval typically lasts about 90 days. Sometimes it can go up to 120 days. Some people's pre-approvals might be 60 days. It just depends. But typically it's about 90 days. So I always put the 90 days in there. And then after 90 days, you can then evaluate me. You can say, hey, Devon, you were great. Or hey, Devon, I don't think I want to work with you no more. We can mutually sever the contract. Of course, this contract that you're signing is actually, you're signing with my broker. I'm a representative of my broker. I work underneath my broker. I'm not, I don't own the brokerage. So I would just pass this information on to my broker. My broker will allow us to mutually terminate said agreement, and then you will be on your way with no penalties in place, outside of one thing that I'll mention inside of this agreement. Right here, it states like what agency is and the brokerage is and what we do not offer. So in Georgia, our brokerage, we don't offer sub-agency. If you want more information about sub-agency, let me know, and I will. We can kind of break down agency in different videos. And then we'll go right here. It says broker dual agency. So in the state of Georgia, we we do dual agency. I particularly do not do dual agency. So I would actually probably pass you if you're a buyer, if you're a seller, if you are a buyer and I'm representing the seller and you come to me and you want me to represent you, I won't do it. I'll pass you on to an agent that I know that'll help you so you have your own representation and I'm still representing my client. I want to have a fiduciary responsibility just to one person to be open, honest, and transparent with them. So I will do my best to get you another realtor that can help you as your own. For you, you will be their client. I have my own client. So then your guys can talk amongst each other. We can talk amongst each other, and we can, go that way because I feel that that's the best way to go. This is now, if you guys don't know, because of the new NAR rules per se, there is a thing around being more transparent in compensation, or as people used to say, commission. So this right here breaks down in our buyer agreements now about the compensation. It says how much, you as a buyer would pay the buyer's broker. Again, you guys are paying the broker, you're not paying the agent. So most people don't know that when a check gets cut at the closing table, or if you're in another state, you're at a title company, or however you guys kind of close your transactions. In Georgia, we use closing attorneys. When a check gets cut by the closing attorney in Georgia, I in turn take the check on top of the ALTA, which is the settlement statement. And also I like to get the disclosure as well. I take both of those statements and the check back to my brokerage. My brokerage in turn takes the check out of my hand and says, give me the check, Devon. They take that check that you guys might think that I'm getting, and they take this check out of my hand so quickly because they're like, we're going to get our piece of cut before you get anything. And they take the check and they send it over to the payroll department. The payroll department then in turn takes their percentage out. So right now, I'm currently with my brokerage. I'm very transparent. They take 40% out of my check, you guys. So they take 40% out of my check at my brokerage. And then my brokerage, we also have a franchise fee because we are franchised. So that's a 6% franchise fee. And down here in Georgia, we have a fee for the MLS, which is 0.0012%. So we have several fees that are in place before I see the check. So the brokerage, the FMLS system or MLS system takes their 0.0012%, which is based off of the purchase price. And then after that, the franchise that my brokerage is under, they take their 6%. And then after that, my brokerage takes their 40%. Then after that, I get the last straggly amount of money. So it's not a big check, you guys. It's really not a big check. I be telling people, I'm like, I love my realtor colleagues, baby, but y'all be on social media flossing like y'all making thousands of dollars. And I'm not saying that realtors, I'm not saying that there are not some realtors that are making a lot of money, but also those realtors are in different spaces. They may be doing multi-million-dollar deals. They might be doing development deals. They might have investment deals happening here. They might own actual investment properties. So they have their hands in different spaces and they're working with different people. I'm typically always seeing kind of like first-time home buyers or second-time home buyers that are kind of staying within a certain price range. So I don't see like a lot of these $1 million properties. Maybe one day I'll work with somebody that'll, understand that I'm a great agent and I work very hard and I do a lot of research and due diligence, and they'll say, hey, Devon, help me buy a $10 million property or help me sell my $20 million property. But in Georgia, you don't see that many of those properties that high. I'm not in California, guys. I'm not in New York. He's MHOA said too many hands, too few pockets. Exactly. Too many hands. And I always tell people I ain't getting nothing. So right here in the buyer brokerage agreement down here, you will, because of the new NAR rules in place and creating more transparency outside of what people typically saw on Zillow, when you kind of scroll down to the bottom, you saw, oh, thank you, Zipporah. She said, yes, you will. Thank you, Zipporah. You typically saw the compensation listed there as far as how much the buyer's agent will be getting out of the deal. That is no longer there on the platform no more or within our MLS system. So now we have to come to our clients on the buyer or the seller side and put the compensation here. So it basically says right here, value of broker's professional services. And remember, this money goes to the broker before it comes to me as a realtor. I'm the face of that's working with you directly. And my broker is this mysterious person out in the distance that you never see at all. Unless y'all start needing to go to the court or something, then he might show up, or she, or whatever. So you put the value here. It says possible payment of compensation by the seller or seller's broker. It says buyer directs or does not direct broker to seek, get seller or seller's broker to pay all portions of the compensation. So this is just stating that as far as possible payment of the compensation by the seller or the seller's broker. So we would then put here right here that the buyer directs, the broker to seek to get the seller or the seller's broker to pay. So basically saying get the listing side to help to pay the compensation, you know. If you're on the buyer side in the state of Georgia and you're using the GAR forms. Some companies have their own forms, so they might look a little different from this. This is the disclosure regarding brokers' compensation. Buyers shall be obligated to pay all brokers' compensation not paid by the seller or the seller's broker. So basically it's saying if I put up here that, you know, the payment is 3%, and if the seller is not willing to, the listing agent, the seller is not willing to pay 3%, then down here it just states that you as the buyer be willing to pay that difference. So say they're going to pay 2.5%, you'll be willing to pay 0.5%. Typically, I kind of go based off of the client and seeing like their needs per se. I've had times, and I don't want to devalue myself because I'm a great agent, but I've had times where if the other side was only giving me 2.5%, I would just be like, okay, I don't want to put no stress on the buyer because I know you already got to come out of pocket with a lot of things. Don't worry about it. Let's amend the contract and do 2.5%. You don't owe me the 0.5%, right? But if you got money, you can pay me my 0.5%. Don't be greedy. But it says right here, separate compensation on the lease. So this is if you're doing a lease, particular lease agreement situation, you would put all that in there as far as landlord stuff and all that. Typically, when I'm working with the buyers on the buyer agreement, we're not seeing no leasing there, but we have to put that in there. And a lot of the stuff gets restructured every time maybe a lawsuit comes in place or something happens. The lawyers go back and they rewrite these things. So that's why these different things get added into our contracts. Right here is the protected period. So the protected period, I typically we put down here 120 days, which is basically 4 months. So basically this protected period is put in place as far as if I'm taking you out as a realtor and you see a house with me, right? And when you see a house with me and you turn around like, okay, Devon, I don't think I want to work with you no more. I'm good. And then you get another realtor and they show you the same house. That protective period is like a clause in place that kind of helps me basically get compensated off of it because you already saw the house with me and you decided to go another realtor, put an offer in and bought the house. So you guys got to be mindful of this protective period. So make sure when you are, you know, mutually trying to get out the agreement and everything, you understand what's happening and you try to be mindful of maybe understanding how long your protective period is. So that way you can get out of that. So you're not paying compensation to the other agent because they have a protective period in. Some agents like to do a year. They like to tie people up. I don't do that, but I do 4 months because like I said, typically my agreements are 3 months and I just, you know, put an extra month in there for cushion for my protective period in case you want to go and like, I'm about to go do behind Devon's back and go this way. It just helps me out because a lot of people, like as they're on the buyer side, we don't get payment up front. However, I'm gonna let you guys know this what the MHOA said. Do you tip the agent? Do I tip the agent? What do you mean by that? Do you tip the agent? Do I tip the other agent? I don't know what you mean. I guess let me get a little bit more clarity around that, please. But what I'm going to start putting in place myself now is a retainer agreement. I'm working just with buyer clients, not with the seller clients, but with the buyer clients because recently I've been working with a client, a very wonderful woman, wonderful lady. Been working with her for a year, and she decided the other day because she's having a hard time kind of finding stuff in this market, and we went under contract several times, but it just didn't work out for her as far as the things that she kind of wanted to negotiate, the other side wasn't willing to do. So we terminated contracts several times because there were things that she wanted, and I agreed upon which we fought real hard to get them. And we're actually kind of in limbo right now with a seller's agent, which these agents I don't know, but she's kind of feeling frustrated, so she decided she's going to rent. So I've been working with her for a year, driving around, and at the end of the day, as everybody says, it's your fault. You can't complain about what you decide to do for a living. I'm not complaining. What I'm going to do going forward is I'm just going to protect myself a little bit more and put a retainer fee in place just in case people have a change of heart, which, we're humans and we do. And I just want to make sure I'm protected and that I can get paid some way somehow, because as of right now, I don't get paid until I close. Do you tip the buyer's agent? When I'm on the seller side, do I tip the buyer's agent? If I'm on the seller side, agents don't tip. We don't tip each other. However, I do some things that some agents probably might or might not do. I don't know how they do, but I tip everybody around me in the deal. So, like the lender that worked with me on the deal, I might say, hey, thank you for working with me, and I'll send them like a like a gift card somewhere. Of course, I buy all my clients, gifts. I gave my last client $100 gift card to Capital One Grill, and then I bought them also about $100 worth of other things. My last client, I got them security cameras, a bunch of things that are accessible for the house, but also for you to have a good time after you, leave the deal. Leave not the deal, leave the closing table, not the deal. Jeez, leave the closing table. So just to make sure that I appreciate you working with me. And I appreciate you, trusting me, believing in me, and wanting to work with me and choosing me out of all this 80,000 agents in the Metro Atlanta area. You decided to come to work with me, and I really appreciate it. So I want to show you that I appreciate you. So that's my way that I get back to the clients per se. And like I said, everybody around me, I'll give them something like a gift card or something, whatever. Does the buyers tip the buyer's agent? No, you don't have to tip us. Like I said, I am going to put a retainer fee in place now because I'm seeing a lot of this happening where people are canceling contracts and people are deciding to go other ways, so I can make sure, that I'm being able to sustain and pay my bills and pay for gas, because gas is very expensive. And in Georgia, we drive everywhere and it's not right around the corner. This particular client, I was driving an hour away back and forth. That's 2 hours in total from where I live at. I know the area very well that she was buying in. That's why, I'm okay with doing that. So I'm not complaining, but I just want to make sure, that I can sustain as well. I'm all for helping people out, because that's why I got into this business, is really to help educate, advocate people into home ownership successfully, whether buying or selling. But I also got to be mindful that I can't over exert myself without any pay. And then, because sooner or later, if I don't get paid, then I'm not going to be able to stay in this industry to help people out. And then all you guys are going to get is the agents, that might not be what you might be looking for, right? I tell people, you don't know if I kind of talked about this earlier with my dad on the phone. I don't want to take too long because I feel like I'm staying on here too long. But you don't know when you had when you work with a good person or a bad person until you experience a good person first, and then you get a person that's not the best after. You're like, oh, like I have a client that I'm helping right now. I don't do a lot of rentals down here in this Metro Atlanta market no more. However, people that I helped in the past that rented, if they come back to me, I'll help them rent, again. So I had a rental client that came back to me that they want to rent again. And they were like, I was looking for you. I couldn't find you because they changed their phone and their phone number. They was like, I couldn't find you. And we found another agent. And we was like, where is Devon? Where is Devon? And so I just happened to reach out to them because I saw that I had put them on one of our MLS rental feeds per se, as far as where it kind of shows rental properties. And I saw that she came into the system because I could see on the back end when you access the system again. I was like, oh, Tasha. Oh, I didn't say her name. Ooh, sorry, I didn't mean to say your name. Oh, Jesus. I was like, she's looking for another place per se. And so I reached out, to her, and she was like, oh my God, where was you at? But yeah, so, and needless to say, anyway. So let's get through this real quick. So that's basically the buyer's engagement agreement. And then down here, what it does is it breaks everything down more detail oriented. So you get that up top, and then it goes through everything detail oriented down there. And then let me show you real quick too, in regards to the seller one. And we're almost done, y'all. Sorry I'm keeping y'all all night. I apologize. But I appreciate you guys joining me. I really do. So in our exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement, it's almost similar. Right here, it's talking about you entering into an agreement to work with the brokerage and to have me as one of the representatives of the brokerage engage with you one-on-one. And then right here, we put the property in, put the city, all that in. And then right here, we do the legal description. We can check either box we want to do. Typically, I do the deed book in the page because when I go into the back ground as far as property taxes and all that stuff, I can't for some reason, they don't never lay out all this stuff in full on the back end. So we just go by the deed. Most of us go by the deed in the page. Then you go down here, it says list price and listing period. So you'll put the list price in here that you and the seller agreed to list it at. The seller sometimes might have their own price they think the house is worth. And then what I typically do, and most realtors may do, we might come in with the data to show you, like, this is what the market is saying that the houses are selling at. This is what we're seeing seller concession wise. This is what we're seeing, that's happening. This is how many days things are staying on the market. When it's priced this way, X, Y, and Z, this might be a fair price to kind of go with, to be more aggressive, to approach the market and be more on that fair that level as far as getting the house sold sooner than later. However, at the end of the day, I always do circle back around and see what is a great medium for myself and the seller to meet at where they still feel like they are getting what they feel, that the house is worth. However, it still matches the market, what the market is kind of telling us, right? Right here, it says commencement date of agreement. So this is the day in which the agreement will start. This is the day the agreement will end. Typically, when it comes to selling homes and when it comes on the seller side, not the buyer side, what we're seeing right now down here in Georgia, that things are sitting on the market a little longer. So because of that, our brokerage asks us to put at least 6 months in there. So again, I don't do a whole year because I don't never want to hold anybody up for a whole year. There are some agents that do that. I don't believe in that, but we'll do 6 months and you can still mutually agree to terminate. So I just want to show y'all what's happening because of the new NAR situation, and you guys can kind of see some of the contracts. Again, we have the listing period right there. It says the marketing. So this right here is basically saying we're marketing in MLS, GMLS, FMLS, GMLS, areas in which we're marketing it, the day in which marketing will start, and then how many days before we start that marketing, and right there. And then again, we look at the compensation. So again, we have to draw out the compensation to make it clear on both ends. You as a seller are agreeing to pay XY percentage. And this could be just to the listing agent, or you want to pay percentage for both sides, for the listing and the buyer's agent. Again, compensation is negotiable, but also we want to be, try to be fair in situations to make sure at the end of the day, the goal is to get your house sold, right? So whatever you feel like is the best avenue to make that happen, sit down, have a conversation with your realtor and really understand and talk out and see what makes sense to you to still make sure you get what you ultimately want out of your house. The bottom line, you have a number you want, you want something, it's feasible, it's fair to the market, and you still can be able to possibly pay for both sides, great. If not, I've seen some people, like I said, if they're trying to sell and they're underwater, they might have no type of space for to kind of give some type of compensation or a certain amount of compensation. So you have that conversation, right? You say, hey, I'm trying to sell. I just bought this house last year. I don't want to bring no money to the closing table. How can I sell this and still possibly break even? Or even if I take a loss, I'm not bringing anything to the closing table. What can you do for me? And I've done that before with a seller. She couldn't afford to do it. And I agreed at a lower compensation. So now my phone is ringing. So that kind of breaks all that down. And then again, you have your protective period here. Again, you have your agency and brokerage stuff here again. Right here, you have your lead paint disclosure. So this basically says if you have any lead within the house. So if the house was built prior to 1978, typically that is a house that was built that has some type of lead paint inside of it. And also if there's any structures in place in the house, like a wood paneling from back in the day that was painted, or an antique that was painted or whatever, might have lead in it. So very specific with that. And then we go down here. This kind of gets more into like the seller has the following circumstances that will require third-party approval. So if you have a bankruptcy or divorce, and then contract to sell the property, bankruptcy, divorce, short sale, seller not on title. So do you want to kind of get more in depth in regards to that? Create transparency with your realtor around these things. And again, every contract is different depending on what state you're in. I don't know how the lawyers drew up your contracts in your state, but this is just in Georgia from our Georgia Association of Realtors. The negotiation says seller does or seller does not authorize the broker to assist, to extend requests by seller and negotiating the terms, or filling out a pre-printed form, contracts for the seller's review and approval. So you can say, I don't want you to fill out any forms, or I do want you to fill out all the forms for negotiating the terms and all that stuff. And then down here, again, it lays out everything in full detail. So everything we kind of went through quickly, it lays out down there in full detail. So again, I'm just showing this because of the new NAR rules, things in place, and I appreciate you guys hanging around. And I'm gonna go through real quick this last part because we are going over time, and I know ain't nobody want to watch this long behind video back. I wanted to show y'all how I kind of look at markets and stuff too, but it's gonna be too long, and I don't want to be on here forever. So right here, this is also like the loan financial. Next time I come on live, what we'll do is before we on the tail end part of it, I'll show you how I kind of analyze markets, and I kind of look at how things are appreciating in the area when somebody is trying to buy something, like trying to buy a house or something. So we can go through that next time. So let me exit off all the stuff I had for that, because that's not going to make, that'll make my computer go a little quicker. All right, so right here, thanks David, thanks for hanging around. I know it's kind of late, so I appreciate you staying around. I appreciate you tuning into the show. and have a wonderful, wonderful day or night. You know, and I will see you next time. And if you guys don't forget, if you are looking to go to Omaha, Nebraska, move to Omaha, or you currently live in Omaha, Nebraska, go check out David Matney's channel, Living in Omaha, and subscribe and reach out to him. You know, you will not regret it. He said, don't forget to hit that like button. Yes, don't forget to hit the like button. So let's scrim do this real quick. I know you guys are like, Devon, you're going so quick, but FHA loan contingency. So we have different contingencies in place for different loans, FHA, conventional, all that stuff. I'm gonna do FHA real quick because FHA in the state of Georgia is compiled within the appraisal contingency, and the finance contingency is all within the FHA contingency. So this is what we do right here. They said the exhibit is a part of the agreement on the offer date. So this is the day in which we put an offer in. We'll put the date here. We'll put the property address here. Typically what we do down here, we'll click the first button, which is A. It says first mortgage loan. So this is the first mortgage, which means, you know, this is your primary mortgage. And we'll do, if your FHA is 96.5% here, 30-year term, which is your fixed, whatever interest rate is now, let's say 6.5, and we'll click fixed because it's not adjustable unless you had a conversation with your lender and you guys decide to do adjustable. Most of them are fixed. We'll go down here. Typically, you don't have to put the lender in here. And the reason why they tell us not to put the lender in here is because say if you want to go and get a denial letter from like another lender denies you or whatever in the process of you trying to close the loan out. And if you put right here, the lender, approved lenders, then it might prohibit you from utilizing this right here where it says buyer may apply for different loans. A loan denial letter, as that term is defined below, must be for the loans described above. So if you put like any type of lender up here, they might be like, oh, well, their loan denial letter came from this lender and not this lender. So we don't know, blah, 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 you know, so you want to kind of leave it a little vague here. Right here, it says the length of the financing contingency period in section 6 below. I typically put 28 days there. Most of the realtors down here want 21 days. So I had a realtor call me recently, was like, well, why are you putting 28 days there? Is there a reason why? I'm like, no, it's just that I just want more protection for my buyer. Just have extra days because we run into holidays. We run into nut cases that are other realtors and other people because people, you know, are crazy. We are crazy. And so, you know, in case you do something crazy, I want some protection so my buyer can get out of, can be able to have enough days to get out. If say he or she go under underwriting or something happens as far as they can't get the financing or whatever, we want to be able to, you know, get out of the contract. So we'll go down here. I'm being very quick. So if you guys want me to explain this more, just let me know in the later process. I'm just kind of rushing through it. So hopefully it makes a little sense. So we kind of went through a little bit of the finance contingencies. Right here, special approval if property is a condominium or subject to a master insurance policy. So we want to make sure that, again, this is another way in which we want to make sure that the condo, if you're doing a condo or some type of special approval, that they have the correct master insurance policy that they need in order for the lender to close on the loan. And if not, right here it says, then the buyer shall have the right to terminate this agreement without penalty and receive a full refund of all earnest money, provided that the buyer provides seller with a letter from such lender or approved lender as the case may be stating that the property does not meet such underwriting guidelines. Such letter may be provided at any time through the closing. So again, this gives you a way to get out of the agreement if, you know, things do not qualify per se to the lender's standard. Getting that letter and being able to get that full earnest money back. Use of approved letter and lender loan denial letter. So this again is talking about if the lender denies anything, they will have to, you know, send that letter over to the seller, and whatever needs to be kind of put in place, they would either need to do, and or if not, you're able to exit out the contract. Again, I kind of want to go down some more because I don't want to be here too long because these things are pretty long. So this is more about your mortgage insurance premium. We put a certain percentage in there, and then we typically say, I typically put B, add to the loan amount in finance, because that's typically what most people do. They kind of add it to that loan amount. I'm trying to get down here to the appraisal real quick. Did we pass the appraisal part? Yeah, we did. Sorry, my bad. I think it's up here. I think this is it right here. This appraisal, finance contingency. So with FHA, like I said, down here in the state of Georgia, they kind of coupled that with the appraisal period as well, with an appraisal right here. Here it is right here. Sorry, we went through this real quick. All right. Notwithstanding any contrary contained herein, the denial letter may not be solely upon one or more of the following: a buyer lacking sufficient funds other than the amount of loan to close, buyer not having leased or sold other property, buyer not having provided the lenders in a timely fashion with all information required by the lender, including not limited to loan documentation, official wood infestation. Says buyer making purchases that adversely affect buyer's debt to income ratio, buyer not meeting occupancy requirements, FHA. And then I'm like, where is did I skip over the appraisal part? But anyway, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out if I skipped over the appraisal part. But anyway, with the FHA contingency, it has a clause inside this loan as well, as far as if the property appraises for less than what you put an offer in for. And I'm like, why can't I find it? It typically has where it'll have it where I fill in the blank. Oh, right here. I'm like, I know I put the money part right here. So right here, we'll put like, okay, we're offering, let's say $200,000. And it says, right, it's in a mandatory clause, says it is expressed agreed that notwithstanding any other provision of this agreement, buyers shall not be obligated to complete the purchase of the property described herein or incur any penalty by forfeiture or earnest money deposits or otherwise, unless buyer has been given in accordance with HUD FHA requirements a written statement by the Federal Housing Commissioner or a direct endorsement letter, lender setting forth the appraisal value of the property or of not less than whatever. So it's basically stating that if the property is less than what is put in this particular box right here, that they will not fund anything more than that. So if you would then have to go back to the seller, show them the letter that the lender gave you, as far as the appraiser gave you, which is sent out through the lender, saying this is how much it appraised for. FHA, they're not willing to fund any more money. Can you bring the price down to this amount? If the seller says no, then you can say, I'm not paying upon over the appraisal gap. And then in turn, you can then decide to get out of said contract and get the earnest money back. So, hey, what's going on, Eddie? What's going on? So we are ending the show now. I feel like I was on here too long. I appreciate you guys hanging around here with me. Just wanted to kind of go through some of those contracts at the end. Again, every state is different. Hello, we are having an amazing Sunday. Yes, we are an amazing Sunday. And if you guys are into football, next Sunday will probably be probably be greater if your team wins, depending on what side you are on. If you guys don't know, I'm from that, Pennsylvania, New Jersey area per se. So of course I have to go Eagles. So I probably will not be on here next Sunday. So because of the Super Bowl, I will be at a Super Bowl event. So I will not be on here next Sunday. But I appreciate you guys taking the time out to watch this Sunday. Stay on here and hang with me, for close to 2 hours. Thank you, Eddie, for coming over. Thank you, David, Matney, MHOAZ. Zipporah, thank you. James Clark, Chloe, if you guys are still around. Who else kind of joined us tonight? Papa Dankos 360. I think I'm saying your name right. If I'm not, I apologize. And I appreciate all you guys for hanging with me for up to 2 hours tonight. And I will see you. Have a great week, you as well. And I will see you not next Sunday, but the Sunday after. I will see you guys, and hopefully you don't forget about me, because I know once you start missing days, you tend to forget. But I'll see you guys next Sunday. Have a wonderful night. Enjoy your week. And if you have any questions and you want to reach out to me, my email is below, dclarktherealtor@gmail.com. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay. Have a wonderful Sunday night. Bye bye.